Welcome to Rage, Grace, and Everything in Between. This is our unfiltered conversation about navigating neurodivergence and every stage of menopause at the same time.
Hi, I'm Michelle, postmenopausal ADHD.
And I'm Angel, perimenopausal and ADHD. We're not here as experts. We're just two neurodivergent midlife women figuring it out in real time.
If you've ever felt alone, broken, or like you're losing your mind, you're not. You're unmasking, you're changing, you're becoming.
If you're a neurodivergent woman in midlife,
Or someone who loves one,
this is your permission slip, your exhale, your reminder that you're allowed to take up space.
so grab your beverage of choice, lower your expectations, and settle in. Welcome to the conversation. Let's begin.
We are continuing our deep dive into the seemingly endless list of menopausal symptoms that can be maddening to all womankind. This week, we are talking about the urogenital and sexual health systems.
I'm so glad we're talking about this topic because I've discovered something about Bob that I want to discuss a little later in our conversation.
Oh, there's something about Bob.
Something about Bob. Symptoms of dysfunctional urogenital and sexual health include atrophic vaginitis, genitourinary syndrome of menopause or GSM, dyspareunia, which is painful intercourse and uncomfortable intercourse, and vaginal dryness, which can be a part of that. Also, the loss of or increase of libido, incontinence, stress incontinence, and pelvic organ prolapse, urinary frequency and UTIs, and we're going to round it up with bacterial vaginosis.
So there's some things that I learned when preparing for this episode, like bacterial vaginosis is new to me, not because I haven't experienced it, but because doctors never told me I had it. I always thought it was UTIs. Like I didn't realize that fishy smell was like something else.
Yeah, just another part of the health system just failing women, right?
And that prolapse thing. What was it that you said?
Pelvic organ prolapse. I'll talk about that when we get to that
I didn't
section.
know that was a thing either.
Yeah, yeah. Urogenital and sexual health concerns are frequently driven by hormonal changes, infections, or pelvic floor issues rather than just being a part of just aging. Conditions like GSM or recurrent infections, often treated by urologists and gynecologists, can significantly impact your quality of life.
And I know myself, and most, if not all, women I know have experienced these symptoms in one form or another.
Right. There are certain key aspects of urogenital and sexual health that we're going to go into as we discuss the hormonal influence, the lower estrogen. We're going to just keep beating that drum, right?
Over and over.
Lower estrogen levels after menopause cause vaginal dryness, atrophy, and the urinary urgency. Similarly, changes in testosterone can affect sexual health and sexual function in both men and women.
Yeah.
Common symptoms during this part of life is the urinary symptoms can be frequency, urgency, incontinence, and recurring urinary tract infections. Sexual common symptoms are the dyspareunia, which is painful intercourse, lack of lubrication, and reduced desire. And then conditions range from the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, the GSM, and vaginal atrophy, and then also pelvic organ prolapse and recurrent infections. All of this has an impact on quality of life. The urogenital symptoms often lead to reduced sexual frequency or even avoidance of sex, right? And which leads to an increase in the risk of depression.
You start to feel bad about yourself, and it's affected my relationship too. If your ADHD feels life-altering in perimenopause, there's a reason. Estrogen,
Estrogen.
estrogen,
Estrogen.
estrogen, and testosterone, they both support dopamine. And when they fall, focus, energy, and emotional regulation fall with them. Your brain is responding to hormonal shifts, not failing you. There's information out there that show the connection between hormone changes in ADHD and how it affects our brains and bodies. We don't realize how many estrogen receptors we have throughout in our brain and body.
Right, yeah.
I mean, everything affects everything.
They should just call it estrogen pause. Right?
It's insane.
Well, as I've said in an earlier episode, sexual health is a main component of my mental health. It's a big part of my self-care, as orgasms are known to improve mental health by releasing the endorphins, oxytocins, dopamine. So whenever I notice my mood swinging in the wrong direction, I take care of it, myself. This in turn really helps to improve my self-worth, my body image, and my sleep, which is vitally important.
Yeah.
Now, this is not meant to be a replacement for real, actual mental health care. If you need medical intervention, therapy, or meds to help with regulating your moods, don't be afraid to ask for that assistance. There's just absolutely no shame in needing to intervene with a brain that is just not releasing the right levels of hormones and chemicals to keep you well.
Yeah, so my husband will notice my mood swinging in the wrong direction before I do, and he'll help put me in a better mood.
The sex stuff.
He's good about some things.
Yeah.
There's some things he's good for.
Yeah,
but
that's a good partner.
He is, for the most part. But sexual health is important for my personal well-being and for my relationship with my husband.
Yeah.
But I have friends who, they don't care. They don't care if they ever have sex ever again.
That's sad.
But,
All those sexless marriages out there.
But the friends that I'm thinking of, they're not
even in a partnership.
They're not in a partnership.
That's happening a lot.
They've more and more.
That's
more
happening a lot.
More.
Yeah.
My one friend who's been married for over 25 years, it is important to her, so she is looking into different therapies.
Yeah. I've actually have a few friends in my life who are in sexless marriages, and I don't even understand why the men are still around, because they're not even nice girls.
My husband would not put up with my shit, and I would not put up with his shit.
I mean, isn't that like the
There's no
incentive
way.
to be married and put up with all that shit is the reward of the sex stuff, right? So genitourinary syndrome of menopause, or GSM, is a progressive condition that shows up as various symptoms that affect your vulva, your vagina, and your urinary tract, which includes your bladder and your urethra. This can happen during and after menopause. GSM often starts 5 to 6 years after a woman's last period, but can start in the years leading up to menopause during perimenopause. This condition can be uncomfortable and frustrating, but the symptoms can be managed with over-the-counter medications and prescription medicines.
Yeah, so the important part in all this, and I'm going to drive this home in every episode, I feel so strongly about this. There are remedies. You don't have to live with this. Talk to your doctor, go online, do whatever you have to do, but I mean, you don't have to live.
You don't have to live like that.
No. GSM is caused by a drop in
Estrogen
levels, a hormone produced by the ovaries that keep the vagina and bladder tissue thick, lubricated, and elastic. When estrogen drops during menopause, the tissues lining the vagina become thin. It's called vaginal atrophy, causing symptoms like dryness, burning, itching, pain, and urinary tract infections, UTIs.
What I've noticed personally is an increase in the gypsy curse itching for all of my Stephen King fans out there. I sometimes wake up with an urge to take like a paint scraper to my hoo-ha and just scrape it off completely because, yikes. But if I shower at night, if I'm able to keep myself dry, it greatly reduces that urge. But oftentimes I struggle with the motivation to get in the shower before bed, especially when my energy level is spent and I just don't have the bandwidth at that point to think about the consequences. Yeah. I've found, though, that using the Honey Pot branded pH balancing coochie cleaners to be helpful in reducing these symptoms. Not a paid promotion, could be a paid promotion.
So I can relate to itchy vagina at night. I did not know it was caused by low estrogen until we started this podcast. I knew our hormones fluctuated throughout the month, but I never thought about them fluctuating consistently throughout the day and estrogen being lower in the evening. My nighttime symptoms, like all my nighttime symptoms, are all caused by lower estrogen. Now I know.
The more you know. So the dyspareunia, or painful intercourse, is common during and after menopause due to the declining estrogen, which causes the vaginal atrophy, which is the thinning, dryness, and reduced elasticity of the vagina. It often results in the burning, itching, and tearing sensations, which, can be a little terrifying. Yeah. Effective treatments include over-the-counter lubricants, moisturizers, and even prescription vaginal estrogen.
There are treatments. You do not have to live with this.
Right. I was lucky enough to have escaped this symptom until recently. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to talk about Bob. My battery-operated boyfriend died in October, and at the time, I was so depressed over the loss of my soul dog, and then, secondarily, the loss of my job at the same time, to be bothered to really do anything about it. And till last month, that's when I discovered that I no longer have the WAP, for my ladies that know what I'm talking about. I know, TMI. But I had to pick up some lubricant, and I was really fortunate that the salesperson at my local adult novelty shop was very well versed in lubricants.
That's nice. I like it when that happens.
Yeah. And so he was able to recommend a really good pH balancing water-based lubricant for me, and it's greatly improved the experience. But again, TMI, I have noticed a little presence of some pressure at the top end of my vagina. When I had my hysterectomy, they removed my cervix and 1/3 of my vaginal canal. So I'm going to have to ask my doctor the next time I go in if this has something to do with that. I don't know. I've been a little too afraid to look it up on the Googles and mess up my algorithm.
So if you can't have a conversation with your gynecologist about your vagina, you have the wrong gynecologist.
Right.
If you can't talk to anybody else on the planet about your vagina, you should be able to talk to your gynecologist about it. Yeah. So I have experienced painful intercourse in this past. No, actually, no, it wasn't this year. It was previous. It was before. But I didn't know it was related to menopausal symptoms.
Yeah.
So I experienced painful sex probably 2 or 3 times with my husband. I didn't tell him. It wasn't anything he did, and I felt bad.
Why do we do that?
I don't know. I mean, I do it. I've done it, and I still don't know why. But I did talk to my doctor about it because it's important for my relationship, and she recommended pelvic floor physical therapy. I'm like, this thing exists. I didn't know it was a thing. And she's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. So I went to the, it's a niche within a niche. It's very,
Right.
yeah, it's a very specialized,
Not all physical therapy.
offices offer it. And it is very, it's a very intimate
Yes.
appointment. So just be
It's
aware.
not regular physical therapy.
No, it is not. Like, you are in a room with the physical therapist. Your pants are down. There's a sheet over your lower half. There was a gloved hand inserted into my vaginal canal. But what she did was she told me to do different. To flex, to relax,
Like
Kegel.
kegling.
Yeah, kegling, basically, just to check the muscle. And she was quite literally checking the muscle. You can tell there was nothing untoward,
Nothing sketchy.
nothing sketchy. But it's about as comfortable as a pap smear. Let's say that. It doesn't hurt as much. But we figured out through that the reason why I was having painful intercourse is because, and she compared it to a bicep. It's constantly contracting without relaxing. So if the muscle's already contracted and you try to contract it more, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So like my first whole week, my homework assignment was to relax.
Relax, right? Well, and it makes sense because your pelvic floor is the bottom of this bowl full of muscles and tissues that create your core, ending up with your waistline. And so, if you're contracting, like she said, if you're contracting without relaxing, you're just always walking around with tension. And it's important if you have the availability and the willingness to see a pelvic floor physical therapist for this. By all means, do that. If for some reason that feels a little too daunting to you, there are yoga therapists out there and yoga specialists who specialize in pelvic floor work, and you can look it up and find a class near you where they are doing the yoga moves and the pelvic work to help you relax. Just like any other yoga class. We walk around, especially women, we walk around with all this tension because the body holds everything that we experience physically, mentally, emotionally.
And that's essentially what she taught me. She taught me to relax and contract with my breath, and core strengthening exercises that we do in yoga. Like,
so
it's
basically,
like literally the same
yoga
thing.
with somebody's finger inside of you.
Checking the muscle every couple weeks to see
Right,
how
yeah.
I'm progressing. Yeah.
So the year before I began having hot flashes, I experienced what my friends and I termed as dickapalooza. I had an outsized increase in my libido and the availability of said dick. I was in really good shape that year. I was in probably the best physical shape of my early midlife, and I was having the time of my life. It was my Dirty Dancing summer, right? And but that season was followed by a dramatic drop in my libido, like almost just cut it right off. And then I also had the quick weight gain that's part of the hot flashes disturbing my sleep. I wasn't getting quality sleep. I was having a hot flash every 2 hours, still do. This greatly affected my self-image, which can have a huge impact on libido. And the lack of sleep disrupts the hormones that regulate appetite, increasing calorie consumption and reducing physical activity due to fatigue. And there are a lot of studies out there that show that sleeping less than 7 hours greatly increases hunger hormones, the ghrelin, and decreases satiety hormones, the leptin. And chronic or partial sleep loss is directly associated with an increased BMI and increased obesity risk.
Yeah, so I have some experience with the increased libido for a few months. It's where I felt bad for my husband.
Brown chicken, brown.
Like, I did not ask nearly as much as I wanted to. He probably would state otherwise, but it would have been multiple times a day.
I don't feel sorry for it.
But I mean, we're both in our 40s, so
I want it now.
So right after that, it dropped.
Mhm.
It like dramatically. It nearly disappeared. But
Like
now
somebody flips a switch.
it really was. It was like for months. I just wanted it all the time, and then one day I was like, "Brah."
Don't touch me.
So I was like waiting for it to come back, and it just didn't. But now that I've been on HRT for a couple months, like just over the last probably week or so, it's starting to
Kick back in.
ebb and flow
Lucky
a bit
Mike.
more.
So menopausal related urinary incontinence, particularly stress incontinence, often stems from dropping estrogen.
Oh, estrogen.
The dropping estrogen weakens the pelvic floor muscles and tissues, and this can affect up to 50% of women. It causes leakage during physical activities like coughing and sneezing.
Physical activities like coughing and sneezing, like literally just living life.
Treatments include pelvic floor exercises, lifestyle changes, and even vaginal estrogen therapy.
Yeah.
This can be particularly alarming for women that have not experienced the joy of postpartum sneeze coughing. You ladies know what I mean. Stress incontinence, which is the most common type, is where that leakage occurs during movements that put pressure on the bladder, such as coughing and sneezing and laughing and exercising and bending over and lifting your leg and just basically living.
Yeah.
Urge incontinence, which is the sudden intense urge to urinate that cannot be delayed. Pelvic organ prolapse, or POP, occurs when pelvic muscles weaken, causing organs like the bladder, the uterus, and the rectum to sag or bulge into the vagina. Common symptoms include vaginal pressure, a feeling of falling out, and discomfort, and it's commonly caused by childbirth, aging, and chronic straining. Treatment can range from physical therapy to surgery.
So it feels like your vagina's falling out.
Yeah, maybe.
There are remedies. You don't have to live with this stuff. So there are some days of the month, not all the time, that I experience stress incontinence. So like because of where it is in the month, I know it's hormonal.
Yeah.
It's cyclical. Most days I'm fine. But when I know that I can't quite hold it, when it's more difficult, I know that's when my estrogen is lowered. So what causes these symptoms is the decline in estrogen during perimenopause and menopause that leads to the weakening of the urethra, bladder, and pelvic floor tissues, reducing the body's ability to control urine. And again, we don't realize how many receptors we have throughout our brain and body, and how many systems it affects. Estrogen helps maintain the strength and flexibility of the muscles surrounding the bladder and pelvic organs. As estrogen levels drop significantly during menopause, the urethral and vaginal tissues may become thinner.
Yeah, these changes, along with the relaxation of the pelvic muscles as women age, can contribute to issues like overactive bladder and urinary incontinence. The hormonal changes may also increase the risk of UTIs. Several factors, both physiological and lifestyle related, can contribute to an increased risk of bladder issues before or during menopause, such as childbirth. The process of childbirth can weaken the pelvic structures, leading to bladder control issues. Medications, such as anticholinergics, which are medicines that help manage involuntary muscle movements, and also muscle relaxants, can affect bladder function. Alcohol and caffeine, these substances can act as a diuretic and increase urine production and the frequency of urination.
I'm not going to stop drinking coffee, though.
You don't have to stop drinking coffee, but you might like decrease the frequency.
I only drink I probably drink 3 cups a week.
Well, yeah, that's probably okay. I drink 1 cup a day, which is a huge reduction. I used to drink coffee right up until I went to bed. Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, like decaf is not the same.
No, I've been encouraged to just give it up, but it's such a ritual. It's such a ritual part of my morning. Like I have an Italian espresso maker, with the percolator, and I ground the coffee every morning, and I steam and foam the milk, and I make my cortata, and like that's my morning meditation, sitting there enjoying that warm cup in my hands and smelling it, and the whole process of it is my morning ritual.
And these rituals are important for us.
And my son tried to buy mushroom coffee, and no cap on anybody that enjoys mushroom coffee, but
mushrooms are gross.
just like the whole idea was so disgusting, and it tasted like the poop that mushroom is grown in,
Yeah. So we have childbirth, certain medications, alcohol, caffeine. What else?
Right. Also, there's nerve damage. Nerve interference can disrupt communication between the brain and the bladder, causing bladder dysfunction. And then also constipation. So chronic constipation can put pressure on the bladder and contribute to increased urinary frequency.
Okay.
And as far as urinary frequency, that one's a hard one for me because I also have diabetes, and urinary frequency is a symptom of that.
Yeah.
So I never know if it's one or the other, but considering everything is related, it could be both. I know that if I drink like my sleepy time tea in bed, invariably I'm going to have to get up in the night to go to the bathroom. But if I drink it before bed and then I go and empty my bladder before I go to bed, then I can usually make it till morning. But then here's where, autism plays a part, because sometimes I ignore that interoception, that desire to go to the bathroom so long that it just disappears. I just stop having that urge.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I lay down and begin to relax, then I have to get back out of bed and go to the bathroom, because then my body sends that signal again. It's kind of like an endless death match of wills.
Yeah. Well, I used to have a lot of UTIs when I was a teenager. I blame it on the one time I douched. It just threw my pH balance off for, I want to say like a year or two, like for a while. But I finally got back to homeostasis, and I was fine in that way for a long time. But then in this past year, I had 3 UTIs in 2 months.
Oy.
And the third time I went to urgent care for the UTIs, the lady's like, "You need to see your doctor." I said, "I don't have a doctor." I was in between doctors. And I know I said it in the previous episode, it took me 3 tries to find a doctor I like. In reality, it took me 6 tries, because I had tried 3 gynecologists and 2 primary care physicians that just weren't working, like over a year and a half. I was tired.
That's 5.
Yeah, but that's 5, and then I found a doctor.
Oh, okay. Math is hard. I went to public school.
So, like, I had already tried 5 doctors over a year and a half, and I was exhausted at that time. So, but when I experienced 3 UTIs in 2 months, and the lady's like, "You need to see a regular doctor," I was like, "Well, what do I do now? I don't have a doctor." So I was talking to her, and she says, "I have just the person. She works in this building, it was close to the house." She's like, "You're going to love her." And I really do like her. I saw her a couple times. She did my physical, but she did tell me that I need to find like a woman's health doctor for what I'm going through. So I did my research, and I found a women's health clinic almost an hour away from my house. And I see her every 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And she's been a godsend.
That's awesome.
But it's because I had the 3 UTIs in 2 months. That's what pushed me to find somebody that can help me with my symptoms and what I'm going through.
If I had to go through that many doctors, I'd probably just give up.
I mean, I had.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible about that. The pain of going through that many doctors is worse than the pain of an occasional infection. I did have UTIs as a child, and some yeast infections. I think my mom had figured it out that it was the bubble baths that I was taking, which might be why I prefer to take the hot salts baths now. Love them.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with the salt baths.
Right. Let's talk about bacterial vaginosis. As you said, that was something new for you. 50% of women with bacterial vaginosis are asymptomatic. Like, they just don't have any signs or indications at all that that's what's happening. Others might experience a strong fishy odor that worsens after intercourse, along with a thin gray or white discharge, itching, and burning during urination. Traditional bacterial vaginosis tests can be difficult to interpret post-menopausal. Treatment often involves standard antibiotics like metronidazole and clindamycin, but long-term management can require local vaginal estrogens, probiotics, and a restoration of the microbiome.
So there is an estrogen link. As estrogen levels drop, vaginal glycogen supplies decrease, causing lactobacilli, the good bacteria, to decline and allowing anaerobic bacteria like Gardnerella to flourish. In addition to hormonal shifts, smoking, douching, and sexual activity can increase risk of bacterial vaginosis. Sexual activity, because semen is alkaline, which raises pH. I was today years old when I learned about semen raising pH. I had no idea.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No idea.
Like the fact that a sperm reaches an egg is almost a miracle, because the vagina is a very acidic space, and it's so toxic to sperm.
It's like a hostile environment.
It's a very hostile environment. Like once that sperm makes it there, like, he has the right to do like those victory laps. Woo! 'Cause, like Rocky running up to the top of the art museum stairs, right? Like for myself, I didn't notice as many UTIs as a lot of women describe having during this period, but I do have a nearly monthly BV bout, and I'm sure it's cyclical. I don't know how much hormone I'm doing, how much cycle I have this far past menopause, but it does seem to be like once a month I end up with a mild BV. And if I'm really good about tending to my diet and my hygiene, I can usually avoid it, or it's very light to almost unnoticeable. And it has a lot to do with if I am eating too much sugar, or if I'm not eating yogurt on a daily basis, because that has that lactobacillus in it, right?
Yeah.
Those things can contribute to my pH imbalances, and it usually happens just prior to noticing like a dark discharge further back on my panty liner, and this is why, like I talked about in the leakage section, I wear panty liners every single day, and even when I was still having a period, I would wear panty liners on the days I wasn't having a period. I'm pretty sure that I'm part of the reason why Always still makes the extra long panty liners. They're never long enough. They're still not long enough. We do need more women working in product development in all of these companies.
Of every age. Women of every age. Working, every age.
And size. And yeah. There's just not enough support for us big girls.
So I know you went over it, but I'm still kind of like, how do we know how to tell the difference between UTIs, yeast infections, and bacterial vaginosis?
Well, what I read online says that generally yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, and UTIs are distinguished by discharge, odor, and pain location. So a yeast infection can cause a thick white discharge and intense itching. BV presents with a thin gray-white discharge, a fishy odor, and minimal itching. And UTIs primarily cause a burning sensation during urination, urgency, and more of a pelvic pain in the pelvic area. But, you know, like as I went through this, there is still some really
It's a lot of overlap.
a lot of overlap. So, really you should go see a doctor because you want to make sure that you get the right treatment. Yeah, so whether you're getting diflucan for the yeast infection or
For you and your partner.
For you and your partner, and then specific antibiotics for urinary tract infection or bacterial vaginosis. And again, it's back to this estrogen and all of these pH imbalances.
Yeah.
You can kind of go back and forth from one to the other. So diet can help. We're going to just keep beating that drum as well to improve your urogenital health, the vaginal dryness, the irritation, the incontinence in menopausal women. It's recommended to focus on a Mediterranean-style diet. A diet rich in phytoestrogens like soys and flaxseed can help. Healthy fats, fatty fish, nuts, probiotics, yogurts, kimchis, other fermented foods. Key nutrients include upping your vitamin E, which avocados are a good source of that. Vitamin D for tissue health. Have you started the vitamin D that I keep recommending that you do?
No.
We live in a state where the sun doesn't shine
It's
most of the year.
It's not even that. It's even if you got enough sun during this time in life, they're finding that a lot of women are vitamin D deficient. Even if their diet's fine, they're in the sun doing all the stuff.
And it's an absorption thing. I've noticed that with a lot of supplements, you just make very expensive pee if you're not facilitating your body's ability to absorb that. And I did read somewhere that selenium can help. So make sure you have a multivitamin that has selenium, but check with your doctor. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, and it's all about absorption. It's all about being able to absorb those nutrients. It doesn't help to eat them. We're basically a donut. We got a hole on this end and a hole on that end, and if you don't absorb, it's just going through the hole.
Expensive pee. I have an appointment with my women's health doctor. I think in 2 weeks. I don't fucking know, but I'll have to write a note to remind myself to talk to her about the vitamin D.
And check with her because they have some vitamin D supplements that are combined with calcium supplements. And I know that you're really worried about bone health.
Yeah.
So,
Especially until I can start increasing my estrogen.
Yeah. And adequate hydration. Adequate hydration. We need to be hydrated. And low fat intake can greatly reduce urinary incontinence.
I have a lot of food sensitivities that are turning into, I believe, into food allergies. I mean, it's been pretty insane. I really have to pay attention to what I eat more and more. Soy makes me feel like I have the flu. Too much sugar gives me itchy vagina. Like, there's all these things. I had to take Benadryl probably 2 or 3 times a week for the past couple weeks. So I know I have to start really paying attention.
Well, and interesting that you mentioned Benadryl. Be aware that Benadryl does have a dementia risk from taking it too frequently. And Benadryl is a H1 histamine blocker.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that.
Prevacid AD, which people take for tummy problems, is actually an antihistamine. It's a histamine blocker. It's a H2. It focuses on the histamine receptors in your digestive tract.
So, yeah, I'll look into that for
So,
sure.
yeah, food sensitivities are digestive tract sensitivities.
Yeah, I can't keep relying on Benadryl for sure. So, if you have any symptoms, anything's going on that you can't live with, you're uncomfortable, talk to your general practitioner or a specialist if it's available to you. Go online, find the podcast doctors, whatever you have to do. But there are treatments, there are remedies. Ask for hormone testing to evaluate your testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone levels. I would say multiple times, because if it's just tested once,
It's very inaccurate
it's very inaccurate.
because of fluctuations.
Exactly. Track your symptoms, explore all your options, and if you are neurodivergent, if you have ADHD, autism, or any of the other neurodivergence, get specific support for your brain, for your life. You know, you deserve a better life.
Yep. Yep, that's what we're here for. That's why we're doing this. Yeah. So time for a mindful minute. So today for our mindful minute, we're going to talk about mindful eating exercises. Boy, have I gotten out of the habit of doing this, and it's such a shame. You know, we've got all these tools in our toolbox, and there's so many we forget. You know, the ones that really work well, because
we just move on autopilot. So
yeah.
much.
But I have been trying to at least several meals a week, trying to move my eating habits from, I've got one of those coffee tables where the surface lifts up right to you, so you can shovel it in while you're eating. And I'm never just watching one device. I always either have the TV in my phone, TV in my iPad, TV in my laptop. It's terrible, because you're paying attention to that and you're not paying attention to the sensations of eating. And that's really important, especially if you're starting to have some food sensitivities. You're not going to notice all of that if you're just putting a lot of food in your face in a quick way. So we're going to do we're going to walk through mindful eating. Angel has some avocado prepared with some seasoning.
Super yummy.
And, avocado has the good fats in it, and the vitamin E. So, it's a really good part of your lifestyle changes during this lifetime. So the first part of mindful eating is self-awareness, right? We want to raise self-awareness. So it takes 20 minutes for your brain to produce the leptin, for the signal to go from your stomach to your brain that you're satiated, that you're full. And if you are eating quicker than 20 minutes, you could end up eating too much food, because you don't get the signal that you're full until long past you've eaten enough to be full. So mindful eating is a really good way to slow that down. And with neurodivergent brains, I know most of my neurodivergent friends, we don't pay a lot of attention to eating. That is, I spent 12 years in the military. I was a middle child. I was a single mom. So eating was never the kind of thing that was a privilege to sit down and take my time. It was, eat what you can, or there was nothing left over,
Or eat as fast as you can, because you have no time.
Yeah. And so the first step, again, is self-awareness. You want to sit somewhere where you are not being distracted by screens, where you're not being distracted by doing two things at once, because we don't really multitask, right? Studies have shown that we don't switch. We switch. We don't do them at the same time.
No.
So find yourself, sit somewhere where you are not being distracted, and, have the plate in front of you, and take the time to just really appreciate the artfulness of your plate. Look at all of the colors, look at all of the textures, notice the gradients of the colors. Avocado is a good one to pick, because it's my favorite color. It's green, right? And it's a few different shades of green. So notice all of the different shades. And, the best foods, the best plates of foods that we can eat are foods that have multiple colors and aren't just all, like the American diet is very beige, right?
Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese,
corn on the cob, right? Yeah, it's all in that same color range. But so take a moment to just really notice the food on your plate, and just appreciate that, right? Maybe noticing anything that seeing the food triggers in your body, being really self-aware of how your body feels as you're looking at this food. Maybe your mouth is filling with
Literally, I'm salivating right now.
right.
I just noticed, like, I didn't notice any hunger pains before, but now I'm noticing the hunger pains. I'm starting to salivate.
Yeah, and salivating is the first part of the digestive process. So that's what triggers your body and says, hey, here it comes. So then you want to make sure that you pick up a small bite of food. You want to make sure that you're not shoveling it in. So take your fork and bring it up close to your mouth. Smell the food, appreciate the texture of the food, right? Maybe just enjoying the aromas, especially if you have something that has a lot of seasoning or a lot of spices in it or a lot of different foods. Just smell all of those aromas.
Yeah, I did add that turmeric and the salt and pepper to this.
Yeah.
It smells so good.
And then the next step is to put that bite in your mouth. And don't put it in your mouth and immediately start chewing. Put it in your mouth. Put your plate down. Put your fork down. Put your hands in your lap. And take the time to notice what happens in your mouth when that food is in there. Notice as those salivary glands go, oh yeah, click. Notice where in your mouth you feel the food, where you taste the food. They say you have those taste receptors in different places, which I think is hooey. I think we have them mixed all over, right? But notice where you're tasting the food, where you feel the food, the texture of the food, and then begin to chew. And as you chew, a lot of times we don't chew our food enough. Masticate, chew up all the food you ate, right? It's a rhyme from when my parents were little, and I just happened to be the oldest grandchild, so I remember that. I won't say the whole poem.
Don't finish it.
But chew that food, and avocado is smooth, so we're swallowing that one a little quicker. But if you had something that had a chewy texture, really masticate that until you can't avoid the need to swallow. And then when you swallow, don't immediately pick up another bite. Wait. Put your hands in your lap. Maybe you close your eyes if you don't feel weird doing that. Or maybe you just let your eyelashes come close together and take the time to notice as it goes down that alimentary canal, goes to your stomach. Notice the sensations your body creates as that food is being converted to energy. And food is supposed to be energy. If you eat food and it makes you sleepy, if you eat food and it makes you mucusy, these are indications that your body is reacting in a negative way to those foods. Maybe you have a sensitivity.
Yeah, if you eat the food and your vagina itches.
Right? Yeah. You might be eating it the wrong way.
There's some nursing horror stories, but if you break out, if your muscles ache, if your joints ache, something like
my son, I can't remember what kind of food it is, but sometimes he eats foods that make his shoulder feel crunchy. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that translates. He grew up in Haiti, speaking different languages than English.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how to translate that sensation, but I think he feels achy in his joints when he eats certain foods.
I really want to take another bite of that.
Yeah, so then go ahead, take another bite, put that fork down, take the time. You don't have to stop and smell each bite because we've already triggered all of that, right? But take the time to really enjoy the sensations of that food moving around your mouth and how your body responds to it. You want to take 20 minutes to at least to eat a properly portioned plate of food. So, how do you feel?
It's really difficult to eat this slow.
I know, right? It is. It takes a lot of self-awareness. So I'm going to let Angel go ahead and take a few more bites of that because it's so good and yummy. And now that she's got her salivary glands going.
And it definitely tastes better than I think it would have otherwise. Like just the mouthfeel and the flavors and everything. It's so delicious.
Yeah. And, like I said, we eat so quickly. And we don't chew properly, so we don't digest properly. We don't allow the digestive organs to all begin to do their part when their part is supposed to be done. And we end up with indigestion, we end up with belly aches, we end up with constipation, or the other way, or nausea. You can end up with a hiatal hernia from eating too much food, and that flap at the top of your stomach never gets to close. So you're always expressing stomach acid up into the bottom of your alimentary canal. Or eustachian tube, depends on who your anatomy teacher was, right? But yeah, so that's all I have this week. How about you?
That's it for me. We'll meet you in the rage, hold you in the grace, and sit with you in everything in between.
So stay hydrated, and as always, take care of your body, and we'll see you next time for the next deep dive. Bye.
Bye.